It is purely coincidental that we have now another famous Italian-American watcher of these markets. Anthony Pompliano is his name, the founder and CEO of Professional Capital. Anthony, great to see you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
You heard maybe a little bit what Kenny was saying. The bull run runs on, but it may be not as robustly. What do you think?
Well, I think there's two things that are happening with Bitcoin specifically. The first is we got a pro-Bitcoin president that's going into the White House. He explicitly campaigns saying that he's going to protect Bitcoin. He's going to protect the right of Bitcoiners to hold those assets.
Bitcoin can still hold what it's doing.
100%. I mean, look, anytime that you have a president go into the White House, what they measure is what moves. And this president cares about the stock market. He cares about asset prices. And so if you think that we're going to put a president...
But he particularly likes Bitcoin, right? And that surprised a lot of folks, the degree to which he likes it, right?
He loves Bitcoin.
So he wouldn't be like someone who would, like many criticize Gensler at the SEC for doing everything he can to kill this thing in the crib.
I think that actually not only does President Trump like Bitcoin, he holds Bitcoin. He also wants the United States to hold Bitcoin. And so he's going to put together this strategic reserve of Bitcoin, which will be incredibly important. I think it'll be a flag that he plants in the ground and says, hey, I promised I was going to do this, and I did in the first 100 days.
Why is that a big deal? If you have a strategic reserve, you're building it, and by having to buy Bitcoin to have in it, right? So it furthers the demand.
Well, central banks around the world, they hold gold, many other assets.
Right.
And so anytime that you can go and get the best store of value asset in Bitcoin, which it has been for the last 15 years, I think that's a good thing. The other thing that's happening is Bitcoin's price is increasing, and everyone says, hey, it's Wall Street FOMO, which definitely is playing into it. But I think that Bitcoin,
right?
Yeah, but I think that Bitcoin is also a global alarm system. And what Bitcoin is telling us is, I'm calling the bluff of the politicians. If we go and look over the last 3 months, the politicians have added $850 billion to the national debt. And so at that same point, over that 3-month period, Bitcoin is up over 40%. And so right now we have a race between the national debt and Bitcoin. Who is going to reach the sky faster? Because Bitcoin is skyrocketing at the same pace that the national debt is skyrocketing.
So do you buy the camp that says we're going to go to $100,000 a coin, which we're not that far right now. I mean, that's less than a 20% jump to get there. But it is a wild run, right?
Saying that Bitcoin's going to go to 100K used to be controversial. Now I think people pretty much think that for sure it's going to happen. The question is when. Now the
what do you see for it beyond this year into next year?
Timing is very difficult, but to kind of open people's eyes to what I think this asset's going to end up doing, Bitcoin will hit $1 million at some point in our lifetime. And it's partly because you have a finite supply asset and there's a lot people that's coming and more people buying it.
If it's going to go to $1 million, I mean, that's a 10-fold jump, 11-fold jump.
Yeah, which sounds insane, right? But if you remember, just in 2022, Bitcoin was at $17,000, and today it's at almost 90, right? And so you kind of get these massive moves in an asymmetric asset. And so you have a finite asset, adoption's increasing. But the other thing that's really important, too, is the dollar is going to be devalued. We've seen the dollar lose 25% of its purchasing power since 2020. And so as you get weaker and weaker dollars, and you have a finite asset that everyone in the world is saying, hey, maybe I should own some of that, obviously the price is going to continue to run up.
Okay, so you have to have the dollar to go down before Bitcoin continues going up. Can you have them both going in the same direction or no?
I think Bitcoin is going up regardless of what the inflation rate is. Obviously, we see, BlackRock, Fidelity, many of these large financial institutions going and buying it. But the other piece that I think becomes really important is the inflationary environment that we are operating in. There's an entire generation of people, we do not believe the CPI number anymore. Right? They're saying that it's 2.4%, but people are looking at their grocery bills. They're looking at their daily expenses, and they're saying there's no way that prices are only going up 2.4%. And so there's got to be something. And I think what Donald Trump could do that would be very impactful for economic markets is if he came in and he overhauled the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The BLS and the way they collect data and the methodology they use to calculate these numbers is broken, and you can't make good decisions if you have bad data. And so we could actually get to what is the true inflation measurement that is going on in the U.S. economy. Then all of a sudden we can start making better monetary policy decisions.
You young people are very jaded, very jaded. All right, very good seeing you, Anthony. I appreciate that. A good insight on these cryptocurrencies. We're getting to be all the rage.